All right, over to this hour spotlight. And tonight we are focusing on mental health. Now, Valentine's Day is coming up next week, and we're taking a bit of a different spin on the day. How to protect yourself from the pressures and demands that can come with this day instead of falling down the rabbit hole and spiraling under the strain. Singer-songwriter Katherine Harrison wrote a song about it. It is a love song, and we know she's a huge mental health advocate. So instead of writing it from one perspective, she wrote it from the other. And those lyrics certainly are opening up a conversation about mental health. And so lovely to see Katherine joining us here on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Angie. Nice to be here.
Talk to me about this song. It's called Love Is Not a Game.
Well, you know, as songs often do, it started out as a traditional love-ish song as a relationship was going through some challenging times. And the more I worked on it, the more I sang it and performed it, it kind of iterated into this song about a more holistic and profound definition of love, which is beyond the sort of narrow definition that we have, which is partnered romantic love. And it became more about having a sense of agency and self-determination. It became about compassion. It became about being careful of the games that we play with ourselves and each other. And so it's still a love song, but it's more of a love song around agency and not falling prey to the superficial notion of it. And I think that once I got really clear on that, it became evident to me that those are the same kinds of issues that are often missing in the mental health conversation, which is, you know, connection, community, compassion, a sense of agency and self-determination. And that's how those two things got tied together.
Talk to me a bit more about that, because it was a journey for you too, you know, where you sort of start off with sort of one focus of where things were going to go, and you ended with something, I don't want to say completely different, but the journey took a different path.
Oh, totally. And interestingly, I started writing this song before COVID and then global pandemic. So there was kind of a natural break in there to come back to a song with a different lens. And as we went through the pandemic, everyone's well aware that there were certainly substantial negative impacts on many people's state of mental health and well-being. And so I just came at it from a different perspective, having gone through a different life experience. And then because of that, we didn't get into the studio until a little bit later. And so sometimes life forms and art forms just take on various states of evolution. And then it just became this really kind of cool, you know, kind of a rock tune that was it just felt really empowering and really focused on agency versus a typical love song.
And on a topic that is difficult to talk about, that can be very painful for a lot of people, but as a huge advocate for mental health, you sort of took the bull by the horn on that and said, I'm going to put this out there for my listeners to take in and to, you know, mull around and to you know, allow it to engross them. Talk to me a bit about that, but also you do have a mental health strategy company that you founded that really signifies all that.
Yeah, and the mission behind that company is primarily to democratize mental health literacy. And that means we can't solve a problem if we don't know what it is and we don't know how to talk about it. So mental health literacy is fundamental, and also to increase a sense of agency individually and at the community level. We talk about mental health, we talk about infrastructural and institutional changes that are necessary, still true, still relevant. And in the meantime, and in parallel, we need to individually and collectively be increasing our sense of you know, mental health and well-being holistically, connecting it to physical health and well-being, social health and well-being, mental health and well-being, and all of the things, as I mentioned, around, you know, what love really is, can also be descriptive of what good mental health is. Connection, community, you know, literacy, being able to, having the tools to be able to connect in meaningful ways. And I think that some of those very basic human needs can be applied in both cases.
When we then look at days like Valentine's Day, for example, with that, how would you say one should approach it, or how you would approach it?
Well, I think Valentine's Day is actually a great, it's a great symbol of the pressure that we all feel because we live in this socio-cultural experiment, quite frankly. And there are constant cultural pressures that are put on us. And I think Valentine's Day is a good example of one, where there might be a pressure to feel, say, do things that are authentic or inauthentic to you yourself. You may feel really down that you don't have a partnered relationship because Valentine's Day is about love, and our current definition of love is that narrowed, partnered focus. And so it's important for all of us to recognize that love shows up more than just once a year. And it can show up in many different forms. It can be love of our fellow man. It can be love of our creatures, of our communities, of the work that we do. And that's one of, I think, the most important aspects of mental health is to expand our focus as opposed to narrow it, and just to be aware of how we often get yanked around by some superficial expectations, by some highly commercialized, norms. And unfortunately, Valentine's Day is one of those things.
Before I let you go, I got about 20 seconds left here, but what are you hoping listeners are going to take away from this song? It's so deep in meaning.
I want it, first of all, I want them to have fun with it. I want them to dig it. And I want them just to, I want them to feel a sense of agency and empowerment and possibility in spite of some of the infrastructural, institutional limitations that we have. And hopefully find a way to reach out and connect with anyone, someone who's in your community, family, friend group, whatever, peer group, and just take back a little bit, redefine what love is for you moving forward.
It's lovely speaking with you, Catherine. The song's amazing. Catherine Harrison, Canadian singer and songwriter. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.